If you were to look on my fitness app at the moment that's tracking this walk, you'd see that I was doing some kind of walking on water trick. I'm off the shore of Holy Island. Went almost a mile offshore at one point because I was following the tide as it went out, and I've been coming back towards the shore well before the turn of the tide. It's important to treat the tide table and the sea with an amazing degree of respect, an amazing amount of proper fear. And that got me thinking about why we find it problematic these days to think about the fear of the Lord. It's a biblical image that keeps coming back again and again. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom. Pass your time of your sojourning here in fear. There's lots of things about the fear of the Lord in the Psalms, and blessed are those who fear him. It's not something that sits particularly nicely with us culturally, is it? Because we think, well, hold on, we don't want to think of God as anything but loving. If we're thinking of him as a father, we're thinking of him as a very loving parent to us, not as some abusive parent, an abusive lover, if you like, to be feared, that we obey out of fear. And I think my approach to the tide and the sea is a helpful one when it comes to thinking about the power of God and holy fear. Do I fear the sea? Do I fear Mother Nature? Do I fear the tides? Well, I probably don't express it like that, but I do, and I should. If I had no fear, I wouldn't consult the tide tables, I wouldn't pay any attention to the weather. And if I chose to walk out at low tide and stand by the sea and think, well, you know, I love nature, I don't fear nature. Nature is something wonderful, something I want to feel at one with. So I'm going to do what I want and just stand here, irrespective of what nature is doing. I'd die. I'd die. I'd be stood as the tide came in, and I'd be stood as the waves overwhelmed me, and my little dog would probably drown as well, which would be another tragedy, but that's another matter. So, yeah, holy fear is a good thing. It's not about abuse from God. It's not about having a very patriarchal view of God. What it is recognising that God has a power over and above anything we can imagine, anything at human level, and that if we get things in our proper perspective and have a sense of the awesome majesty and power of God, then we should have a sense of righteous fear. Not fear that God is going to be abusive towards us, but that the power of God, the power of the Almighty, is something to be reckoned with. It's something of immeasurable power, more immeasurable even than the power of the mighty sea and the mighty oceans. More powerful than the fear we might have for our lives out at sea, or when the tide turns and we find ourselves marooned and unable to get back to shore. So yes, holy fear is the beginning of all wisdom. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom, just as fear of the sea is a wise thing when you're planning a walk out into the North Sea. Another peculiarity about Holy Island is this amazing white beacon. It's a great big stone thing. It's like a pyramid. It's massive, and it's got a handy place to sit at the bottom of it. So I'm here having a sandwich with the dog. It was put here during Napoleonic war times, I believe. I think it goes that far back, and it was put as a landmark, as a beacon, a navigational aid. So it's not like a lighthouse, it's just a really distinctive white triangle that you can see from a really long way away, because there are all sorts of hazards just off the coast here. There's lots of very rocky outcrops. You can see that as you walk around the coast towards on the North Sea side of things. So it was there to warn of danger. It was, again, showing you that there was something to be feared. So you needed to have your wits about you, and if you knew that you saw this navigational aid, you'd know where the hazards were if you consulted your charts, and you'd be able to change your course as necessary. And you could see as well the law having a spiritual sense of being a navigational aid as well. So it's the people of Israel were given the 10 Commandments and the law so that they could be really visible, so that they could be saying, look, there's something you need to take seriously, there's something that you're in mortal danger about, you might need to change course as necessary. So they were called to be a beacon, to be God's holy people, by following God's law, but they were also there to follow God's law itself. So it was a corporate and an individual call to holiness, to living the way of the Lord, and keeping in mind the fear of the Lord. So just as the navigational beacon keeps in mind the fear of shipwreck, so there is something, a power that you need to take seriously, a physical thing that is a fact, not something to sort of just adopt and to think, well, I might follow that, I might follow the guidance of that or not. The fear of the Lord is something similar, that it's saying there is something to take seriously, there is something that can cause you mortal, eternal harm, and there is a way of avoiding that. So it still is a negative, but it's a negative that points us to the positive, if that makes any sense. A landmark, a beacon, something to navigate by, something to navigate our lives, to set a course by, and to keep us safe.